We've all felt it. That moment your beloved character's ripped away in the worst way possible, and it just feels so damn wrong. Today, we aren't just talking about sad endings. We're talking about deaths that were purely unfair. From stolen futures to senseless tragedies, these are the moments that broke the rules and our hearts. Kicking off our list, and arguably one of the most gut-wrenching anime deaths there is the tragic end of Mio from Dororo. Mio was a beacon of hope in a war-torn world, a kind young woman who dedicated herself to caring for orphaned children who had nowhere to go. All she wanted was a peaceful and self-sufficient life of cultivating a field where her children could grow up safely. But after literally selling herself to the samurai in order to get closer to her goals, she gets brutally murdered before seeing any of it come true. What's more unfair, the very children she gave her life to protect were slaughtered in cold blood, making her sacrifice completely meaningless. Next up, we have a character whose story was just beginning to unfold before it was tragically cut short out of nowhere. Sheele from Akame ga Kill was the big sister of the group. Even though she was a deadly assassin, she was actually very clumsy and had a heart of gold. To her, the members of the Night Raid were practically family, and she would go any lengths for them. But just as we were starting to fall in love with her as a character, she gets caught in a brutal trap. She gets torn apart by a biological weapon while she smiles one last time. What makes this death so unfair is how early it happened. She had so much more love to give, and seeing her friends scream her name is a moment we'll never forget. Gugu's life was a series of unfair tragedies. Abandoned by his brother and disfigured in a horrific accident, he spent years hiding his face behind a mask and feeling like a monster. But through his friendship with Fushi and his love for Rian, he finally found a family and learned to love himself. Man finally reached a point of true confidence, and we all thought he'd live the happy life he deserves. But his death came just as he was starting his life as a hero, sacrificing himself to save the girl he loved. To see Fushi take on Gugu's form, a permanent reminder of the brother he lost, is devastating. Gugu deserved a long life of brewing and laughter, but instead, he became a memory far too soon. Most characters on this list die in the heat of battle, but Leone's death felt like a lonely, unfair afterthought. Right after the final villain was defeated, Leone was shot multiple times in the gut. Instead of seeking medical help or telling her friends, she chose to spend her last moments walking through the city she fought to save, eventually dying alone in an alley. After surviving so many impossible battles, seeing her die from a cowardly gunshot wound after the war was already won felt like a slap in the face. She was one of the key members of the Night Raid, and she deserved to celebrate the peace she bled for.
じゃあな、親友。え、レオーネ、お前。そんな顔すんなよ。ま、みんなと会えるしね。
Ai Hoshino was the ultimate idol, a girl who built her life on beautiful lies because she never knew what real love felt like. Just as she was finally beginning to understand the truth of her own heart and preparing to live a life as a real mother to Aqua and Ruby, her past caught up with her. The unfairness is staggering. She was murdered in front of her own children by a fan who felt betrayed by her humanity. Her final moments were spent bleeding out on the floor, struggling to tell her kids she loved them, so they would know it was the one thing in her life that wasn't a lie. She died at the peak of her stardom, leaving behind 2 children to grow up in the shadows of her tragic legacy.
ごめんね。多分これ無理だ。アクア、ルビー、愛してる。
Sasha was our beloved potato girl, a much-needed comic relief in a world full of giants and gore. Throughout the series, she survived so many close calls with titans, only to be killed by a child soldier she had spared earlier. One minute she's dreaming about the future with her friends, and the next, she's gone. Her last words asking for meat was classic Sasha, but it was also a reminder that nobody is safe in the brutal world of Attack on Titan, no matter how good or innocent they are. Her death signaled the end of the fun era of the show, and without her, it was never really the same.
Jonathan Joestar was the OG gentleman. He was a man of pure honor who only ever wanted to do the right thing. After losing his father and his home to his adoptive brother Dio, he trained his body and spirit to stop the evil he had helped create. And he succeeded, at least that's what we all thought. But on what was supposed to be his honeymoon, Jonathan ended up sacrificing his life to ensure his stepbrother wouldn't harm anyone else. The way he died holding his enemy in his arms, feeling a strange brotherly love for him even at the end, was simply heartbreaking.
Dio. 君の言うように二人で一人だったのかもしれないな。奇妙な友情すら感じるよ。
It was so unfair because Jonathan's entire life was defined by suffering caused by someone else's greed. He never got to see his child grow up or enjoy the peace he fought so hard for, while Dio eventually stole his body to continue his evil reign.
Jojo! お前にも永遠をや... Jojo! こいつ死んでいる。
同じですね。残念ですが原因はわかりません。
さっきまであんなに元気だったのに。
If you want to talk about unfair deaths, you have to talk about the soul-destroying moments from Clannad. After the devastating loss of his wife, Nagisa, Tomoya finally finds a reason to live through his daughter, Ushio. Just as they begin to bond and heal as a family, Ushio falls ill with the same mysterious sickness that took her mother. Watching a father lose his child right after finding his way back to her is a level of emotional cruelty that most viewers can't handle. Her death in the snow is easily one of the saddest moments in anime history. It felt like the universe was simply refusing to let Tomoya be happy, piling tragedy upon tragedy.
Papa, 大好き。暗い夜なの。
そうだよ。真夜中なんだ。
パパ、どこか痛いの？
もう後がないんだよ。
パパ。
Nina Tucker's death was an act of tragic mercy, but everything that happened to her was simply too damn cruel. Nina was an innocent child whose life was stolen by the person she should have been able to trust most, her own father. In a desperate attempt to keep his state certification, Shao Tucker fused his daughter and her dog into a chimera. The result was a suffering, unrecognizable creature that still had the mind of a small girl. There was no way to reverse the process. Her humanity was gone forever. When Scar eventually killed her to end her misery, it wasn't a moment of triumph, but a somber acknowledgement of a life that had been utterly destroyed. Her death is the ultimate example of innocence being sacrificed for cold, calculated ambition.
Nina!
お前は人と獣を分かちがたくしたものか。哀れな神よ、この哀れな魂を。
必要ない。
Mayuri was the innocent soul of the future Gadget Lab, the mood maker who kept everyone happy. Her death is uniquely unfair because it didn't just happen once, it happened dozens of times across different timelines. Because of the laws of convergence, the universe itself seemed determined to kill her. No matter how hard Okabe tried to change the past, the world found a new, brutal way to take her away. Watching an innocent girl be hunted by fate itself is a special kind of trauma. She wasn't a soldier or a scientist. She was just a friend who wanted everyone to be happy, making her role as a sacrifice for the timeline feel incredibly cold and cruel.
マユリを助けるために何度もタイムリープをした。しかしどんな手を尽くしてもマユリは死んだ。運命に殺されるようにマユリを殺そうとしているかのように。
こうしておけばもし尽きてもその命が人のために使われる。生きてきた意味が作れるんだ。やっぱお前はすげえよ、おとなしい。
Otonashi's death is a cruel masterpiece of timing. After a train accident, he spent days in a dark tunnel organizing the survivors, sharing food, and keeping everyone's spirits up. He was a true hero who inspired everyone to sign their donor cards so their lives would mean something, even if they died. But just as the rescue team began to break through the rocks, literally seconds before he would have been saved, he succumbed to his internal injuries. He died in the dark, never knowing that he was being rescued. It is a soul-crushing moment that highlights how sometimes, despite doing everything right, the clock simply runs out.
なあ、おとなしい。聞いてんのかよ。おとなしい。
ゴースト、私の全部をあげるから全部使わせて。これだけ思って泣いてもらえたら嬉しいだろうな。死なないでね。B、丸飲み。
Himeno's death is a brutal reminder of the high cost of being a devil hunter. She was a woman who had lost far too many partners and spent her life masking her trauma with a carefree attitude and a cigarette in hand. Her only wish was for Aki to survive the meat grinder of their profession, which is why when faced with an unstoppable enemy, she didn't hesitate. She gave up every piece of herself, from her limbs to her very existence, to give Aki a fighting chance. What makes it so unfair is that she died for a man who was already obsessed with his own death, and in the end she left nothing behind for her friends to bury. She vanished into nothingness, leaving only the scent of tobacco and a heartbroken partner.
東方司令部。
ロイ、マスタング大佐に繋いでくれ。早くしろ、軍がやべえ。
受話器を置いていただけますか。
ロス少尉じゃねえな。誰だあんた。
マリア・ロス少尉です。
ロス少尉は左目の下に泣きぼくろがあるんだよ。
はあ、そうだっけ。これでいいかな。頭の回転が速いばっかりにとんだ災難だったね。
おいおい、勘弁してくれ。家で女房子供が待ってるんだ。行かねえんだよ。クソだね。
だなことに命かけちゃったりしてさ。エ
リシア、グレイシア、ごめんな。
Coming up next is a moment from FMAB that broke our hearts into a million pieces. Hughes was the epitome of a loving family man and a dedicated friend. His infectious enthusiasm, his constant bragging about his adorable daughter Alicia, and his unwavering support for the Elric brothers made him one of the most beloved characters in the entire series. He wasn't a powerful alchemist or a frontline fighter, but his intelligence and investigative skills were second to none. He stumbled upon the homunculized conspiracy and, in his pursuit of justice, paid the ultimate price. His death was a cold-blooded assassination designed to silence him before he could expose the truth. The image of Alicia at his funeral asking not to put dirt on him is seared into the minds of every fan.
ママ、どうしてパパ埋められちゃうの？そんなことしたらパパお仕事できなくなっちゃうよ。
エリシア。
やだよ！パパお仕事いっぱいあるって言ってたもん。出ないでよ！パパ！
喉が。
Next up, we have the most tragic death in all of Naruto Shippuden. Jiraya wasn't just a powerful ninja, he was Naruto's mentor and the grandfather he never had. He went on a dangerous solo mission to protect his village, only to find out his own former students were the villains trying to kill him. He fought until his throat was crushed and his heart stopped, but he forced his soul back into his body just to write one final coded message to help Naruto. He died alone in the cold water, never getting to see Naruto become the Hokage or see the peace he worked so hard for. He deserved to see the end of the story he helped write. Lynx spent his entire life being used, abused, and hunted by powerful men. He was a genius and a warrior who survived a literal hell on Earth, driven only by the hope of reaching a world where he could be free. After finally winning his freedom and defeating his enemies, he received a letter from Eiji, the one person who saw him as a human being rather than a tool. Just as he realized that he was loved and that he had a place to belong, he was stabbed in a random, senseless act of violence. He chose to spend his final moments in the library, reading Eiji's words of love, dying with a smile on his face. He finally found his wings, only to be grounded forever just before he could fly to Japan.
君は一人じゃない。僕の魂はいつも君と共にある。
お母ちゃんも牛に張ってお墓の中にいてるなんて。
節子。
兄ちゃん、
もうどこへも行かへん。ずっと兄ちゃん節子のそばにおる。約束や。
どうぞお上がり。食べへんの？
節子はそのまま目を覚まさなかった。
There is no death in anime more unfair or more grounded in reality than Setsuko's. She was a 4-year-old caught in the middle of World War II, suffering from the consequences of a conflict she couldn't understand. She didn't die from a sword or a superpower, she died from starvation and neglect. The image of her playing with an empty fruit drop tin is a haunting symbol of stolen childhood. Her death is a brutal, unvarnished look at the collateral damage of war, and it remains one of the few moments in cinema that is almost too painful to watch twice. It is the ultimate tragedy of innocence lost and deserves to be at the top of our list.